Guys, Charles here. Let's see. This is 2022 Set1 Micro. Micro it is. Set1. And externality, right? We could see that just by looking at the graph here. Yada, yada, yada. Usually we read everything on every FRQ, but these are always the same. And I can tell there's no information excessively given or extra given to us that's going to help us. It says identify the kind of market failure represented by this graph. Well, the easiest way to understand sort of and look at this is I know where MSB and MSC come together. That is what we call the socially optimal quantity. So that's my socially optimal quantity. I also know where MPB and MPC equal one another. Where these two equal one another, that's the market price and quantity. So where MPC and MPB come together, that's the quantity of the market. Let's call it QM. And that's the price of the market, PM. I can see that our socially optimal quantity is greater than QM, what the market is producing right now. So I know it's a positive externality. In essence, we want more of this good. That's our socially optimal quantity. I also see that there's two demand curves. If I see two demand curves, I know automatically that it's a consumption. And that makes sense. Demand is about consumption, marginal benefit, utility. It is about consumption. If I had seen two supply curves would have let me know that it was a production externality. Remember, supply obviously has to do with costs, right, and production, whereas benefit has to do with utility or what we call demand. Easy enough. So positive consumption externality. Using the numbers from the graph, identify the marginal external benefit. Now we should just know the MEB. The MEB is the vertical distance between the two curves. So if I know that there's two demand curves, I could have simply measured it from there to there, or here to here, or here to here. If they had given me the numbers here, this is the only one where we really sort of, I guess we have the numbers here too, right? So we could have used that vertical distance. We could have used that vertical distance or this one. From 5 to 8, it's 3. Or we could have used 4 to 7. That would have worked too, still 3. We know what we're looking for, right? If it's the MEB or the marginal external benefit, we're good enough. All right. Assume the guava market. Now we run toward labor. Assume the guava market is in a short-run equilibrium and Bueno hires workers in a perfectly competitive labor market. The wage is $20. The marginal product of the last worker hired was 6 units per hour. All right, let's see. Calculate the change in their profit per hour from the last worker hired. Well, what I know is that at the market price of $5, now again, how do I know it's the market price? Because I know where MPC and MPB come together. That's what they're selling avocados for, is $5. So at $5, and this, my friend, hires, the last worker produces 6 avocados. We are talking avocados. Sorry, guavas? Why did I have to get on avocados? Anyway, guava, he produces 6. That's going to mean that he's bringing in $30, right? So this is the marginal revenue product. This is how much this guy is bringing into our company. And we know our marginal revenue cost. What he costs us is $20 per hour. So, and this is telling us what our profit is, right? That he can bring in an hour $30, but he costs us 20. Our profit per hour has got to be $10. Can we see that? That should make sense to you. Marginal revenue product minus the marginal revenue cost should give us our product. Suppose the government decides to provide a subsidy to consumers who buy guava How would the per unit subsidy affect Bono's marginal revenue product curve? Well, this is why everybody hates labor, because there's a lot of places they can start for labor. So let's just say that there's a subsidy given for guava. And I'm just going to draw a simple supply and demand curve for guava. I'm starting all the way back with the good. There's a subsidy given. If subsidies are given, what happens to demand for guava? It's going to go up, right? So if the demand for guava goes up, I know the price of guava is going to go up. And if the price of guava goes up, I know that the marginal revenue product of guava is going to go up also. I'm going to draw a market and a firm graph here for labor. Do you need it for this graph? No, but it helps. It helps to know what's going on. This is the market for labor. This is the market for guava. This is the market for labor, right? I'm going to go straight across here. This is my marginal revenue cost, my marginal factor cost. It is my supply of labor curve. My demand for labor curve is downward sloping like this. This is also marginal revenue product. Quantity of labor here, wage on the vertical, wage on the vertical, quantity of labor. Now, I know this is product, so this is just price and quantity on the axes. So again, there's a subsidy. Subsidy causes demand for guava to increase. That's going to drive the price up. If the price goes up, remember our formula for MRP, and you just have to have this in your brain. It's tested every test. The MRP is your marginal product times the price of the good. This is your formula for marginal revenue product. So if the price of the good goes up, your marginal revenue product has to go up. We could have stopped there, but I kind of want to walk it all the way through what's going to happen here. What I know is this is demand for labor, supply of labor here. I know the price of the good is going to go up. When that price of the good goes up, it is going to shift our firm's marginal revenue product to the right. But it's also shifting everybody in the market's margin. This is the demand for labor for every firm that produces guava. So when the price of the good goes up, everybody can make money by hiring more workers. So everybody's demand for labor in the market goes up. This is going to drive up the wage. Right? We were originally here. Even though the wage went up, and we knew the wage was going to go up because everybody's hiring more workers, we also know that our own marginal revenue product went up, and this is the new quantity of labor that we're going to hire. Now, the reason why people hate labor is because they can start all the way back with something that affects the good, the demand for the good, the price of the good. That affects the market and the firm in the labor market. And you just kind of have to be able to walk your way all the way through these and see this. So what the explanation is really looking for is to say that subsidies make demand for guava increase. That's going to drive up the price of guava. The way we would think about it if we wanted to write it out. When subsidies increase, demand for the good increases. This is going to drive up the price of the good. When the price of the good goes up, marginal revenue product has to go up, which means demand for labor goes up, which means the quantity of labor hired goes up. All right, I kind of beat that to death, but I think you got it there. So we would want to make sure that we always said, anyway, I already said it. D, instead of we're hiring workers in a perfectly competitive labor market, assume Bueno hires workers in a monopsony labor market. Will the number of workers hired increase, decrease, or stay the same? Explain. Well, you should know right off that monopsonies are always going to hire less than a competitive labor market. So I know immediately I can get half of these points because I know that the number of workers hired is going to decrease as soon as it becomes a monopsony, right? Let's draw the graphs here. We're going to draw a monopoly graph, and you should know how to draw this off the top of your head. There's only been there's one other FRQ that was monopsony, I think I can remember in my head. This one, monopsony also, at least a monopsony question. This is our supply of labor here. This is our demand for labor, our MRP. This is a perfectly competitive labor market. Wage here, quantity of labor. Now, that would have been the wage that a perfectly competitive labor market would have paid, and they would have hired that many workers. The monopsonist, though, the monopsonist has to raise the wage for every worker it hires. For every worker that it hires. Because of that, we always draw their marginal factor cost or marginal revenue cost, they're the same thing, whichever one you want to use, above the supply of labor curve. So the monopsonist still hires where MFC and MRP come together, but he's going to hire less workers. And his wage, which they didn't ask in this specific instance, is always lower than a perfectly competitive firm. So the monopsonist wage is here, and the quantity of labor hired by the monopsonist there. Quantity of labor by a perfectly competitive firm is obviously more. So I know that the monopsonist hires less workers, and I think our explanation here needs to be that your marginal factor cost is greater than a perfectly competitive labor market. And we just want to say that and write it out in a way that they know we know what we're talking about. And I think you could simply write it out like that. The monopsonist's marginal revenue cost or marginal factor cost is greater than a perfectly competitive labor market. Easy enough. Because of that, they hire less workers. We can see that. All right. Easy enough. All right, guys, keep working hard. I'm on Wyzant if anybody needs any help. Labor we usually don't see until the last unit before the test. That's why it's not usually done very well. Take care. Keep working hard. If you can't find me on Wyzant, you can obviously send me a note through here. Take care. Be safe. Keep working hard. You'll get it.